This week in our Wonderful Day in the Lord broadcast, we're concentrating on the two Psalms fairly early in the Psalm tree, Psalm 36 and Psalm 37. We looked at 36 for the last 2 days, the last 3 days actually, and we're going to look at, take a couple days now to look at Psalm 37. To some people, Psalm 37 is maybe their favorite or close to it. It speaks to us at times when we're disturbed and struggling with life. And so we're often there, unfortunately, and this psalm comes into play for us many times throughout our lives. The psalmist is looking at the injustices around him. He sees things that are not right, and against him personally. There's personal injustices. There are things happening that disturb him, that upset him, that simply aren't right. How is he going to handle these personal injustices? And that's why this psalm is valuable, because it gives us some very powerful handles on how to deal with these types of things. So we come to the very first verse, and as we look at injustice, he starts off by saying, "Do not fret." Now he's going to say that 3 different times in this psalm. So verse 7 and verse 8, as well as verse 1, do not fret. That's kind of an unusual phraseology in the scriptures, but it's certainly not unusual for this particular psalm. So we find ourselves when things are going well, when people are hurting us, being unfair to us and so forth, and unfortunately that happens far too often, that we fret. We get upset, our stomach hurts, we get tied up in knots, we're nervous, we're fretting. And so he makes a very clear command, do not fret because of evildoers, those that do us harm. Be not envious towards wrongdoers. Don't look at them and say, boy, I wish I could have what they have, because that's short-sighted. You're not looking at what's really going on there, because they will wither quickly like the grass and fade like the green herb. So the big picture, he gives it up front. They may look like they're doing well right now, but the day comes when they will reap what they have sown, and we will realize, if not in this life, at least in the next, that all did not go as they had planned. So don't envy those people. But instead, verse 3, trust. So he starts out by saying, don't fret, don't get all worked up about this, but he moves to a more positive command here. Trust in the Lord and do good. So can we trust him with these difficult times? Can we trust God with the people in our life that are doing us wrong, with the circumstances that are coming against us and perhaps harming us? Can we trust him enough, and it says here, to do good? Not just trust him enough that we passively sit back and perhaps put up with it, but he goes to a more positive direction, that we might actually do good. And so in the face of evil, we do good. We think about the last verse of Romans chapter 12 that tells us basically that our great weapon in the face of evil is doing good to others. And so this psalm goes right along with that. He says, dwell in the land and cultivate faithfulness. He's talking, of course, to Israel. Stay in your land, cultivate faithfulness. Don't get perturbed. Then he goes on to a verse that's been memorized by countless Christians. It's a great verse, sometimes misunderstood, but what a great verse. He says, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Delight. Now, again, he moved from do not fret to trust to delight. There's a progression here, a good progression. We're now delighting in him. Our hearts are warm towards him. And it says that when we do that, he will give you the desires of your heart. He's not saying we can be self-centered and God is now going to give us our self-centered desires. But as many people have pointed out, when you delight in the Lord, you desire what he desires. And therefore, once we're delighting in him, when he is our delight, we think like he thinks and we want what he wants. And therefore, do not be surprised. He gives you the desires of your heart, because what we want is him. We want to be right before him. We want to know him. We want to love him. And of course, he's going to give us that very thing. That is the desire of your heart. And then finally, one more word, commit your way to the Lord. Trust also in him and he will do it. So he moves one more step up the line. Do not fret, trust, delight, and finally commit. Commit your way to him. Make that a definite commitment that you are going to walk his way. Commit your way to the Lord. You walk His way, you go the direction He wants you to go, and trust also in Him, and He will do it. So the remedy then for this, for fretting, for putting up with evil and dealing with the injustices that come against us in life is to take these steps before the Lord rather than being wiped out by them. A wise Bible teacher of another generation, Alexander McLaren, said this: whatever we make necessary for our contentment, we make Lord of our happiness. I really like that. Whatever we make necessary for our contentment, we make Lord of our happiness. So what is it that you think you need to be content? Well, whatever you think that is will become the Lord of your happiness and the Lord of your life. If you believe that the Lord is what you need to find true contentment, then He is Lord of your life. If anything else, then you're going to find yourself fretting and worrying and so forth, instead of being able to delight in the things of God. So I hope this guides us here today as we look at these verses. We're going to look at a few more verses in Psalm 37 tomorrow that will kind of close out this week in our study in the Wonderful Day in the Lord broadcast. Hope you can join us.